Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Somewhat Scholarly. My name is Alan Hibbard, and today we are looking at Bitcoin, asking the question, is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? Is it a pyramid scheme? Or is it its own thing? Is it something completely different? And I think you'll find in just a couple minutes that it is definitely not either of these other two things. In my opinion, it's pretty clear that it's not. However, there is a related question, which is Bitcoin a bubble? Is it a speculative bubble? And that's a tougher question to answer, right? Is it Tulip Mania? Is it Beanie Babies? Is it something like that? That's going to be the subject of my next video, and I think it's a little more exciting to explore that. So if you want to see that video, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. That video will be out next week. All right, but let's start with Ponzi scheme. Well, what's a Ponzi scheme? Okay, it has these characteristics. Basically, it's an investment, meaning you participate in a Ponzi scheme because you, as an investor, want to give $1 and get $2 back. Pretty straightforward. You're trying to make a profit. So you're an investor. It's basically an investment that you're doing, and the structure of it is centralized. So there's a manager at the center of the action. He or she or they have all the control. They get all the money coming in, and then they dish all the money out. So it's centralized. What is the asset that you have as an investor? Well, you have a receivable. So you give up dollars when you join, $1, $100, whatever it is, and the manager promises to give you more money in the future. So it's a receivable. The reason it becomes a scheme is that you don't get the money that's promised to you, right? So you give $1 expecting $2, and then eventually you don't get it. Like this investor over here gives $1, gets nothing back. We'll revisit that in a second. How does the scheme itself or the network grow? New people. That will become clear in just a second. And how does it collapse? Well, either with a confession or a conviction, like a criminal conviction. I think you guys are aware of that, but we'll come back in just a second. All right, let's look at a pyramid scheme. Similar in the sense that you're participating because you want to make money. You're participating because you want to make money. However, it's not so much an investment, the way I would call it, but a business. If you've ever participated in one of these, and I have, by the way, I've participated in all three. If you've ever participated in a pyramid scheme, you know that very often the pitch is that you can be your own business owner. You can have your own franchise or your own website or your own, digital office or something like that. You're basically a business owner, and the way you make money, the asset you have, is on commissions. Commissions from recruiting people and commissions from sales. Right here, that's how the whole scheme itself grows. Is from new people and sales. You might sell, makeup. Or jewelry or candles or energy drinks or, whatever, anything. Toilet paper. Actually, toilet paper was one of the things that was sold in the pyramid scheme that I joined. Of course, I didn't know it was a pyramid scheme at the time, but hey, lesson learned. No regrets. No regrets. Anyway, so a pyramid scheme is also centralized. Whoever created it is at the top, and the money basically flows up. That's the simplest way to think about it. So whoever created it with initial investors gets that money, and later investors send their money up the chain to whoever came in first. And much like a Ponzi scheme, it ends with a conviction or a confession. Like, okay, we were defrauding everybody. We surrender, we go to jail, whatever it is. Unlike Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin is very different. And what I'm looking at here is Bitcoin in its purest sense, like in its truest form, with just what it is on its own. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So Bitcoin on its own is a payment network. It's just a payment network. And so it's not an investment or a business, because anyone who participates on the Bitcoin network has no expectation of profit. This is really important. There's no expectation of profit. I'm not talking about people who are trying to buy Bitcoin for $10,000 and then sell it for $20,000. That's speculation, and that's tulip bubble territory. That's Beanie Babies territory. That's what I'm going to talk about in my next video. But before we get there, we have to understand the fundamentals of what it is on its own. Because obviously you can speculate on anything, right? You can speculate on the price of tea in China or the price of apples at the grocery store or whatever, right? Like you can go to the local train station and buy a train ticket, Well, if you're going to use the train system the way it's designed, you just get on the train, right? And you move yourself from one location to another the same way that you would move a Bitcoin from one wallet to another. That's it. There's no expectation of profit. But if you wanted to, you could buy train tickets for $5 and try to sell them for $10. Of course you could try that, but it's not what the train system is for, just like that's not what the Bitcoin system is for. So before we get into speculation, buy low, sell high, let's just understand what this is on its own. And you'll see it's extremely different from these. Okay, so Bitcoin on its own is just a payment network. It is decentralized. There is no central entity. So even the creator might not have any relevance to anyone else on the network. And in the case of Satoshi Nakamoto, okay, he mined some Bitcoins, fine. He sent some Bitcoins to someone else. That was sort of it. Then he checked out, he disappeared, right? And then you've got other miners, other users. There's no hierarchy. There's no predictable relationship. And again, there's no expectation of profit. You're just moving Bitcoins from one wallet address to another wallet address. It's also very important to understand that the Bitcoin network itself doesn't know about US dollars. It doesn't know about US dollars. So if I buy a Bitcoin for $10,000 and you send it to me, the Bitcoin network only knows that one Bitcoin moved. It doesn't know that $10,000 went the other way. It doesn't know that. That's very important to realize. Okay, so let's keep going. What is the asset you hold when you're using the Bitcoin network? It's just cash in the form of Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins do you have? And it just sits there. There's no receivable. There's no receivable like over here. There's no one who's promising to give you something later that you then receive. It doesn't happen. There's also no commissions, right? You don't benefit if a new person joins the network, or if a new person mines a Bitcoin, or if someone sends a Bitcoin from here to there. There's no commissions. There's nothing like that. It's just cash. It just sits there. It's actually fundamentally very boring, like very unsexy. It just sits there. Okay, how does the network itself grow? Well, in these other two schemes, you need new people or it collapses. It becomes very obvious what it is and it ceases to function. However, in the case of Bitcoin, the network only grows by mining. You just mine new Bitcoins every 10 minutes. And it's worth pausing here because a lot of you guys are going to say, no, you need new people or Bitcoin collapses. That's not true. If no new person joined the Bitcoin network from today until forever, the Bitcoin network would still operate forever, exactly as it is and exactly as it has been. This is really, really important to understand. There is no need for new people. There's no need for new money. There's no need for new people. The Bitcoin network, just as it doesn't see US dollars, it doesn't even see personhood. It doesn't, the Bitcoin network doesn't even know how many people are on it or how many machines have addresses, wallet addresses. There's no distinction. So in theory, the Bitcoin network could just be one person who controls 1 million different wallet addresses and moves Bitcoin around from one address to another. And also has like one computer mining. Like that could happen. Like I guess it started that way, but in theory it could return to that and it would still function exactly the same way. There would be no difference. No difference at all. So even if no new person joined the Bitcoin network, if we had no additional miners, no additional users, no additional merchants, no additional developers, nothing, nobody else, Bitcoin could still survive exactly the way it is forever. And even if a lot of people started leaving, they stopped being a user, they stopped being a miner, they stopped being a merchant, the Bitcoin network would still survive forever. The only way it stops, right, the only way it collapses entirely is with consensus, right? It's not a confession or a conviction in the case of these other things. It's a consensus. So there's a great quote by Jameson Lopp on Pomp's podcast from a couple months ago. He said, "Bitcoin can't fail unless there's a consensus amongst all of us to allow it to fail." And I really like that quote. It's very, very true. So even if everybody unplugs except 2 people or 1 person, right, even 1 person, the network still will function exactly the same way. Now, again, if you're interested in profiting, if you want to profit, right, if you want to buy Bitcoin low and sell it high, then obviously you have an interest for the network to be large, for there to be sufficient demand to buy Bitcoins for dollars. That's a separate point. It's a perfectly valid way of participating with the network, but it's a separate point, and it's what I'm going to go into in my next video. So anyways, let's just look at a Ponzi scheme a little bit more in depth. I think you guys get it, but just for people who aren't sure, let's start with the black ink, and then we'll go to the blue, then we'll go to the red. Okay, so we can think of this as like the sequence or the timing of when certain things happen. If we start with two investors, let's say, and they both put in $1 and it goes to the manager, then the manager gives $2 back to this guy, so he actually gets his profit. Where did those $2 come from? Well, they're black. They were these $2 that these guys put in. So this guy's getting his own money back plus this guy's money. But okay, now the manager has to give this guy $2. Where does he get $2 from? He gets two new investors. That's the blue. They each put in $1, and those $2 go here. That's how that guy gets paid. Okay, but now these two investors need to get paid. So the manager has to recruit two more people. They put in their money. It goes to that guy. And this guy he can't get paid, right? We'd have to get two more investors and so on and so on and so on. So that's basically how a Ponzi scheme works. And then if new people don't come in, it collapses. It collapses. And I did say that I participated in one of these. I still am. I still am participating in it against my will. And it's called Social Security. So Social Security in the United States is a Ponzi scheme. All the different investors are people who work, people who earn wages, and the government is the manager taking the money. And certain investors are not going to get paid. They're not going to get paid in the future. Like when I'm 65 or whatever, there's a 0% chance I get paid. And that's because the manager is not actually managing the assets very well. In theory, if you have a manager that can somehow double the money that he receives, then you can actually pay people double the money they put in, and it's not a scheme. Like, it's not a scam at all. It actually could work, but you have to be able to double the money or whatever the percentages are that you're promising people. However, the percentages that the government is promising are not even close. Ironically, here's a crazy irony that I just thought of today. Ironically, the U.S. government probably could save Social Security and remove the schemy, scammy aspect of it if they chose an asset to invest in that could return a sufficient amount of money. Guess what that asset would be? Bitcoin. Isn't that a great irony? Could you imagine if the U.S. government put all the Social Security funds into Bitcoin, and then it doubled, tripled, whatever, 10x, and then they sold it, and then they could actually pay everyone everything they've been promising? That would be hilarious. Of course, I don't think they're going to do it, but that's a great irony, because Bitcoin itself isn't a Ponzi scheme, but it could be the investment that saves a Ponzi scheme. Amazing, amazing. Anyways, the pyramid scheme that I was in, that was a multi-level marketing thing. I don't want to name it. It doesn't really matter. They're pretty much all the same. But the basic idea is, okay, so a creator comes in, gets a couple people to pay him some money, and they're essentially out of money. Maybe it's $100 a month or whatever, and they have a right to sell things and recruit new people and get commissions, but that's really hard. If you're the guy at the bottom of the totem and you can't recruit new people to join, or if you can't sell products, you lose money. You lose money on a monthly basis or however it's set up for your fees. So that one's really tough. However, if you're good at a pyramid scheme, you actually can make money. Like, there are definitely people who make money. You just have to be able to recruit people and sell. So there's a certain percentage of people who can do that, but for the vast majority, that's a scam. And anyways, we covered how Bitcoin works. You know, it's completely decentralized. There's no hierarchy. In its purest sense, it's just a payment network. It doesn't know about US dollars. It doesn't know about US dollars. It doesn't know about anything other than Bitcoin. It doesn't know about personhood. So it's definitely not this stuff. Definitely not this stuff. I hope you're convinced. However, if you're trying to buy Bitcoin low and sell it high, if you're speculating, then it's probably a very important question of whether or not Bitcoin is a bubble, right? How high can the price go? How long can it be sustained at a certain level? Is it ultimately going to crash to zero, like Tulip Mania or like Beanie Babies or something like that? That's what I'm going to explore in my next video. So again, if you want to see that video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. So thanks, guys. See you next week.